This is our time.
Hi guys, Halloween is just around the corner, and if you're looking for some inspiration, we have 3 great looks we want to show you. So we are using hypoallergenic, water-based, non-toxic paint, which is safe for ponies, and we did do a patch test yesterday on Wilson and the ponies that we are going to use later, just to make sure that they didn't have a reaction, and it's safe to say that they are fine, so we are ready to get going.
So I started off by giving Wilson a really good groom to make sure I removed any dust or dirt from his coat, as starting with a clean base will make the paint sit much nicer and will create a better final look. So then for this look we were going to create a skeleton on Wilson. So for this we just needed the white paint. You do get through quite a lot of paint, so we did need a big white tub of paint for this look. So the spine is made up of bones which are called vertebrae, and this is divided into different sections along the spine. So I began at the top of his spine, which is also known as the cervical vertebrae. So there are 7 cervical vertebrae in a pony's neck. So I began just by marking out where these 7 vertebrae would sit before drawing the bone and filling it out a little bit more. So as you can see, we started off just by making some white rectangular shaped bones, and then I filled these in before linking them together a little bit more. So I added a bit of a curve to the end, which helped make them look like they linked together. So here we have the 7 cervical vertebrae. So you can actually feel the shoulder blade on a pony. So here I am just kind of marking out where Wilson's shoulder sits, and I'm going to use this as a bit of a rough as to where I can actually paint on the shoulder blade. So after getting a bit of a rough idea, I went in with my sponge, as this is quite a big bone, and look how nicely it went on. So I do recommend using a nice clean sponge if you are painting on a bigger bone. However, if it is a finer bone, we did use paintbrushes and these worked perfectly just for the smaller, more detailed bones. But yeah, this was so easy. As you can see, the paint that we used was really thick. It might be that if you don't have much paint, you can water it down slightly just to dilute it. So here I'm just neatening up the lines a little bit with my paintbrush. So next are the thoracic vertebrae. So there are 18 thoracic vertebrae in the spine. So I'm just drawing on these 18 thoracic vertebrae. So each of these 18 thoracic vertebrae connect to the ribs, which we are going to draw on later. Next we moved on to the lumbar vertebrae. I did find adding a little dot as to where each vertebrae was going to sit really helped to space them out evenly. So there are 6 lumbar vertebrae in the equine spine, and these sit between the thoracic vertebrae and the pelvis. Next we drew on 5 sacral vertebrae. Next we are drawing on our 18 ribs, and these do connect to the 18 thoracic vertebrae, so they kind of line up okay, but don't worry too much about this. It is just for fun, so it doesn't need to be perfect. Wilson has been clipped, so it was so much easier doing it on a clipped pony. When they have their thick winter coat, it is quite tricky, as you'll see later on in the video, but it still works, so don't worry too much if you haven't got a clipped pony, it doesn't matter. So we didn't totally finish the spine. There are also some coccygeal vertebrae. There are actually up to 18 coccygeal vertebrae. However, because these go all the way down to the tailbone, we didn't include these because we didn't want to get it in his tail. Quit whilst we were ahead with this look, I think, and sometimes less is more. But if you wanted to be anatomically correct, then finish it off with the coccygeal vertebrae. So here we are just drawing on some bones in the leg and as well part of the pelvis, and following it down to the bones in his back leg. And if you get it wrong, then this paint, because it is water-based, it just wipes off really nice and easily. So I can get my sponge just to wipe it off if I didn't get it quite right. So after we added in the bones in the leg, because Wilson had really long and lovely feathers, we didn't go to the lower limb. So did you know the horse has over 200 bones? So I am obviously missing so many bones, and although it isn't anatomically correct, I do really think Wilson looks great, and look how good he looks. He knows he looks good here. Look at him posing. So the next look we did was on a pony called Tiny, and we want to create a unicorn because Tiny is a real life unicorn. So to do this, we wanted to create a multicoloured mane, tail and forelock. So we began by doing the mane. So after giving it a really good brush through, we basically just went all out with the paint. So I did use an old towel because I didn't want to get it on his neck and make a real mess. So I sectioned his mane, and the part of the mane that I did want to paint, I basically wrapped the towel underneath it. So I just had this one section of mane on top of the towel, and I got my sponge and I picked the colour of paint that I wanted and I went all in. So as you can see, I just basically wiped the paint all over the mane until it's covered, and this paint was really fast drying. So by the time I had created my next section, it had dried, so it didn't really matter that I then moved the towel, as it didn't then transfer onto his neck. I did make sure to wash the sponge in between each colour just so it didn't mix, and it helped to create a really clean look with defined sections. So I basically just picked my favourite colours and did a stripy look. So we went for a bit of a mixture of pastels and really bright colours, so you can basically pick your favourite colour and go all out. So once the mane was complete, we then moved on to the tail. So for the tail, we basically did the same thing, although I didn't use the towel for this section because it wasn't really leaning against his back legs or anything, and it did just dry on its own really quickly. So I gathered the sections into my hand and rubbed it in. You do get through a lot of paint, so I would definitely recommend ordering more paint than you think because you get through loads of it. So I did make sure to stand to the side of Tiny's hindquarters just in case, for whatever the reason, he spooked or tried to kick out. I was stood safely to the side and not stood directly behind him. And then we did the same for the forelock. So I had a selection of different colours, again similar to the colours that I used in the mane, so it all looked similar. And then last but not least, obviously to make Tiny into a unicorn, he did need to have his unicorn horn on, and look how cute he looks. I'm obsessed with this look. He is so cute. So for our final look, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to create some sort of mood board for a film. So I went for one of my favourite classic Disney films, Cinderella, and you can pick whichever film you like. So pick your favourite film. It doesn't have to be Disney, it can be whatever you like. And I basically wanted to create a mood board, so it was key features of the film. So here is my attempt at drawing a pumpkin. It did sort of look like a basketball at one point, but from a distance it did look fine. So here I was just mapping out the outline of the pumpkin before going in with my sponge to fill it out with the orange paint. This did look quite red at one point, but when it kind of blended in, it was fine. And I did want it to stand out from a distance, so I didn't mind this too much. So I just filled in the gaps. As you can see, you still have the outline, which really helped later as I did then go back round it just to make it stand out a little bit more. So adding the green stalk definitely helped it look less like a basketball and more like a pumpkin. So just with this dark green colour, I added the pumpkin stalk in and just made it a little bit wider at the base just to make it look a bit more natural. And then I went in with this really dark brown just to do a bit of an outline really. And it definitely helped the look come together. So just tracing back my steps from earlier on, and yeah, from a distance it was fine. I did go in with my sponge just to clear up the lines a little bit though, as I did make a bit of a mess. This one was really hard. So like I said earlier, Rambo here hasn't been clipped, so this is a fluffy pony. And you can see it's fine. It definitely didn't go on as nicely as it did on Wilson, but it's not impossible. So here is my attempt now at Cinderella's heel. At first, it kind of just looked like a bit of a white splodge, but then I went in with my fine paintbrush and did the outline, and the outline really helped it come together. So it's definitely one of those trust the process moments. So already it's starting to come together. You can see where the foot would sit into this heel. So just carrying on the outline definitely made it stand out. This white looked really nice against his coat colour as well. So there is the heel. Next was Cinderella's ball gown. This look is so fun to do because you can just draw all your favourite objects on. It doesn't even have to be a film. I just wanted to use the film as a little bit of inspiration, and it also then means you can dress up as your favourite prince or princess to match your pony, which I thought was so cute. So here Cinderella's ball gown is slowly starting to come together. Look how nice that blue is as well. So obviously for Cinderella, the clock does strike 12, so it only meant that we had to draw a clock at midnight. So we use this really nice gold colour. And again, going in with the outline, I definitely think the outline makes it pop with this kind of look, before going in, marking the time on the clock, and then adding in the clock hands, striking midnight. So next to draw was Cinderella's fairy godmother's wand. This kind of looked like a candle on a birthday cake. Let me know your thoughts. Obviously a big part of Cinderella is the start of the film where she is cleaning. So we drew in a cleaning bucket, and here is just some of the looks that you can do. Obviously Cinderella is a love story, so it would be wrong not to include a love heart. Look how nice that shade of pink is. I love it, especially next to that blue. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. So here he is. Look how cute he looks. This was really fun to create, and as I said, you can dress as your favourite prince or princess. So pick your favourite film or the character that you would like to match with your favourite pony. There are so many characters from movies that you could do. If you do create a Halloween look with your pony, we'd love to see. I really hope this video has inspired you to decorate your pony for Halloween if you do celebrate Halloween. Thanks for watching. Bye!